Few weeks ago, I read about a grandmother in Miami named Norma Borgoño. I don't think she uses the tilde in her name, so it's probably Borgoño in Miami, but it should be Borgoño. She'd been targeted for denaturalization. That word, denaturalization, it stays in my mind and it kind of gives me pause because it's just something that I hadn't really thought about since I was naturalized. I became an American citizen when I was 15. That was over 30 years ago. So, like me, this woman, this grandmother, Norma Borgoño, is Peruvian, and like me, she was naturalized. And I guess what happened was that years ago, she was apparently involved in a fraud scheme, and more of a secretarial role than anything else. But that's now being used to go after her and treat her like a criminal and a threat, despite the fact that she'd actually helped the FBI, paid her fine, and had this cleared. So she did everything she was supposed to do. Despite that, she's now being threatened with denaturalization and with being sent back to Peru, a country that she actually seems to have no attachments to other than her past. So the Department of Justice has two basic criteria under which they can file a denaturalization lawsuit. Someone has to have obtained their citizenship illegally, and they didn't meet the legal requirements, or else somebody lied or concealed something relevant during their citizenship process. It's that term relevant that concerns me. It's just vague enough to mean just about anything somebody wants to bring to bear on the case. It's also one of those words that prompts me to become more vocal, and it's why I'm here now, inviting other people like myself, immigrants and naturalized citizens, to speak up and speak out for those who cannot. It's also something that concerns me because I feel like my experience, because it's mine, is so very personal and has its own historicity to such an extent that I don't always know enough about what other people have gone through to get to where they are. I've been fortunate. I was raised in Ohio. My father was a doctor. I went to a good college and went to graduate school at Berkeley. So I have a good education. I have a good background. And yet, when I hear about what's happening in this country and the attacks on citizens, particularly Latin Americans and people from predominantly Muslim countries, I can't help but think that people like myself are being targeted. And so what's our responsibility? What can we say? What can we do? How can we take action? And not only that, how can we make sure that we're doing it in the most reasonable and intelligent way, particularly as people who've managed to find a way to succeed in the United States? Eventually, if the trends that we're seeing right now continue, they can, in the most apocalyptic version of it, culminate by going after people who are considered intellectuals, people who challenge this status quo, people who question this kind of administration, people who are vocal, people who are active, people who are productive and eloquent, people who are willing to use their art, people who are willing to use whatever podium is available to them to challenge what is being said about their culture, their skin color, their ethnicity, their race. And so I want to start a dialogue at a high level. I want to have a group of executives who've come here as immigrants, who've been naturalized, who maybe aren't naturalized, who might be in the process of it. And I want us to discuss what it took for us to achieve success and what it might take for people who are coming up behind us to achieve that same kind of success, particularly at a time when things seem so tenuous and tense and there's so much hatred and there's so much negativity. I mean, there are obviously obstacles to success for anybody. But if you come here as an immigrant, or if you've been naturalized and you happen to have a darker shade of skin, it seems like those obstacles are now not just conceptual, but they're actually being instituted as a part of our government. And that's terrifying to me. And it's something that I believe the business community, the tech community, the privileged among us, I hate that word, but it's the right one, the privileged among us can actually do more about. And it troubles me that there's so much silence out there in response to what's happening, particularly among my peers. And I feel like an opportunity to bring together a group of people who've been through it and who understand it, but who also know how to respond to it and speak to it, could be the start of something significant and important in terms of how leaders in the business community can speak up more and not just have somebody speak for us, but actually use our own voices. So I hope I can bring this panel to South by Southwest and see what I can do with it after that. Thank you.